If you're going to keep floodwaters out of a building without raising it, you're going to need some way to block openings, such as doors and windows if the walls are sealed, and driveways and walkways if you built a levee or a flood wall. Panels are an excellent method for blocking these openings.
A panel closure is any flat, firm sheet material used to block an opening during a flood. A panel closure can be a permanently installed gate that swings or rolls into place, or a removable panel that slips into a frame. Another type resides in an underground compartment. This steel panel floats into place when the storage compartment fills with water. Since it seals automatically, it will protect property from flood damage when no one is home. When flood walls, levees, and dry floodproofing systems fail, it is often because the closures were poorly designed or installed incorrectly. These mistakes can be avoided by selecting a suitable material for the panel, making sure the panel supports are sturdy, bracing and supporting a panel so it won't bend, and mounting a panel so water tightens the seal. The panel can be plywood, aluminum, steel, wood planking, plexiglass, or any rigid material. It should be strong but not brittle. It will be exposed to a tremendous amount of pressure. It should be able to absorb the impact of floating debris without shattering. It should not dissolve or come unglued in water. Plywood should be an exterior grade or for marine use. Don't use particle board. A panel should be weather resistant. The panel may need to be painted, galvanized, or sealed to prevent weakening by rot, rust, or corrosion. A panel closure in a flood wall must be able to hold back the same level of water as the wall. If the walls of a house are sealed to a level of 3 feet, the panel over the door will have to hold back water 3 feet deep. Consult an engineer to calculate the total force on a panel and to determine whether a particular material is strong enough to withstand that force. The full force of water pressure on the panel is transferred to the structure supporting the panel. It may be the 2 columns on either side of a driveway, or it may be a door frame. The strength of the structure supporting the panel and its frame determines whether the panel withstands water pressure or caves in under that pressure. In addition to choosing a strong and durable panel material, be sure the support structure is adequate or reinforced near the panel. A well-built residential structure should be able to stand up to water 3 feet deep if the structure is in good condition. If the building was poorly constructed or has wood rot or termite damage around the doors and windows, you risk structural damage by dry floodproofing. Other methods would be preferable. Regardless of the apparent condition of the building, in no case should you bring dry floodproofing or closures over doors and windows higher than 3 feet without an engineer's certification of the building's strength. And remember, even though doors and windows keep rainwater out, the seals used in door frames and window frames aren't intended to resist the pressure of standing water. Special closures are required. Many of the materials chosen for a panel will bend when water is pushing against them. If the panel bends, it may pull away from the supports and leak. Bending can be prevented by strengthening the panel or by bracing it from behind. This 2x4 bends along its wider side. It doesn't bend as easily along its narrow side. If 2 materials, like this 2x4 and this sheet of plywood, are attached, so the plywood can't bend without making the 2x4 bend in a direction it resists, then the plywood will resist bending. A 2x4 attached to a 2x6 in this fashion is remarkably strong. Each of the boards keeps the other from bending. This pair of boards is called a strong back. It has many bracing uses in construction, not just in flood protection. Angle iron is a metal miniature of a strong back. Very wide openings, such as a driveway, will need support behind the panel in addition to bracing on the panel itself. A support column can be placed behind a panel, or a bolt can be slipped through the lower panel brace into an anchor in the concrete. The effectiveness of a panel closure also depends on how it is installed. First, It's a good idea to have a permanent frame built into the opening to provide a good, tight fit. Using gasket material in the frame or on the panel will create a better seal. Be sure to install the panel so water pressure pushes it into the frame rather than trying to push it open. And, whenever possible, mount the frame on the water side surface of a support. This installation will be less likely to rip loose than a frame mounted in the opening. Even with water pressure working for you, you will need to have latches or screws to hold the panels in place and establish a good tight seal while the water is low. Latches that don't require tools are preferable, but screwing panels in place is acceptable.
Remember, a flood protection system is only as good as the closures for the openings. If the closures don't operate automatically, make sure you know how to close them. Also, make sure you can locate all the pieces when they're needed.